So last night, Manchester United beat Athletic Bilbao by 3-0 in the Europa League semi-final, a result that none of us really saw coming. This morning, we did a video on that game talking about how Manchester United got the win. This evening's video is all about the lessons that we can learn from the match. So the first lesson here is a pretty obvious one. Experience is key in this squad. And that sounds like an incredibly obvious thing to say. We will all sit there and go, you need a blend, you need a balance in your team. But then when we try and make ideal Manchester United 11s, we very often leave out some of the most experienced players in the squad. Last night was a prime example that you cannot buy experience. It doesn't matter how good you are as a footballer. You can't quite beat a bit of experience, someone who has been there and done it. It was a bad start last night from United. We didn't start the game particularly well at all. A few players seemed a little bit nervy. Amorim commented on that. And a few players seemed a little bit unsure on their touch. They weren't fully sharp. They weren't up to speed with the game. They almost looked lost in the occasion a little bit. That's when you need your experienced players. Your Harry Maguires, who has played in pretty much every sort of big game that you can really. Casemiro, who has won a lot. And also Bruno Fernandes, who is an incredibly experienced player. United really needed those players last night. And they stood up when we needed them most. So I think that is something that we have to consider as we move forward. Will Casemiro be at the club beyond this summer? I'm not too sure. Christian Eriksen will probably leave. Johnny Evans. These are all experienced players. What we learned last night was that we do need to replace them with more experience still. Now, lesson number 2 from last night was the importance of scoring first in football matches. It sounds pretty obvious once again, right? If you score first, you've got an advantage. But this is something that Ruben Amorim has been going on about ever since he came into the club. Pretty much every single week, he talks about the need for United to score first. And again, I think last night really summed that up perfectly. Athletic Bilbao had two huge moments where they probably should score. Had they scored either of those, let alone both of those chances, this game would have been very different. But instead, Manchester United score first, despite not really playing too well up to that point. But you see how the game just flips on its head. The demand for both teams is completely different. The game state is so important in elite level football. Do you need to push forward to score? Are you trying to defend a lead? It affects the way that you play. United need to get better at scoring first, because last night it gave us a huge advantage. But I also think it will be important for the second leg as well. If United score first, we're 4-0 up. At that point, I would go as far as saying we're through. If Bilbao get the first goal, perhaps Old Trafford just becomes a little bit nervy. So once again, we learned that Amorim was right. Scoring first is crucial at the highest level. United need to get better at starting fast, even though last night we did score first. Lesson number 3 is all about physicality. This is something that I talk about a lot, and you guys almost criticise me at times for talking about it so much, because I am almost obsessed with the physicality of players, particularly when we're playing in the Premier League. But I think in pretty much every Europa League game this season, we have seen exactly why. Because in the Europa League, United look a much more physical team, and that is because we are playing physically weaker opposition. Now, I should just clarify, when I'm talking about physicality, I'm not just talking about being 6'4". It doesn't have to be a guy with super broad shoulders. It's also about intensity, speed. These are all things that come under that category of physicality. What we see in the Europa League is that United are physically the better side. We saw it last night. The ground duels, 61% of duels won, and the aerial duels, 63.6%. When you can win majority of your 50-50 challenges, it's going to give you the upper hand in any game of football. If physically you can compete with the opposition, you're going to give yourselves a great opportunity. And we saw last night, Casemiro and Ugarte physically were better than what Bilbao had to offer. And that just immediately gives us a platform from where technically we can then look to perform. Tactically we can look to perform, because physically we are meeting the level of the opposition. Or in this case, not just meeting them, actually being even more physical. So again, if we're looking at the longer term, the future, squad building this summer, we have to remember physicality. We can't just go out and sign small diminutive midfielders that are perhaps slow. We need players with intensity. We'll need a little bit of height, we probably will. But I think intensity is what is really important, because we need to take these physical performances from the Europa League and put them into the Premier League next season. Now, lesson number 4 is a bit of a negative one, and one that we learned for the first 20, 25, maybe even 30 minutes. I think we were all already aware of this, but Manchester United lack technical ability. In that first 25 minutes, United were not good. Bilbao pressed reasonably well, but the press was suboptimal, as we anticipated it would be, and United still really struggled. Lindelof had a very sloppy start. Manuel Ugarte is the one in particular. Now, I don't want to hate on him too much because I think he mentally did really well to recover the performance. He started really poorly. The first 20 minutes was genuinely catastrophic from him. He lost the ball so regularly in really dangerous positions, and another day we would have been punished, and that goes back to, you know, scoring the first goal and being very important. We have to get better technically in the first phase because better teams will punish us if we start that slowly with our technical quality. We can't take 40 minutes to warm up into a game and start knocking the ball about nicely. You have to do it from the start at this level. And again, I guess we can take this as a lesson for squad building and recruitment. We need to find technical ability in our midfield. We need to increase the levels. Also, perhaps in the two inside forward positions. There's several different areas of this team now where it's becoming increasingly clear we need someone technical. And I would also kind of extend that to a player which is happy to pass the ball more as well. I think particularly against 10 men last night, we controlled the game, but I wouldn't necessarily say we controlled the tempo too well. Again, I think if we have a different profile of midfielder, someone who's a bit more of a passy boy, we like to call him, right? Someone who just knocks the ball about. That would have helped United last night, I feel. So, again, we've learned this a lot this season, and it continues. We need technical quality. Now, lesson number 5 is more one for the rest of the season now in terms of the competition that we prioritise. It is clearly the Europa League. We already felt that way, but it's now more obvious than ever. We have almost 1 foot in the final. We need to start looking at the fitness of these players ahead of the final. Yesterday we saw more players taking further steps in their recovery from injury. We had De Ligt playing 25 minutes, Mason Mount playing 25 minutes, Shaw played around 16, Ahmad 6 and Kobbie Mainoo 6 as well. It's great to see these players gradually getting their minutes back up, minutes into their legs, in the hope that we can increase their sharpness. That has to be the aim now until the Europa League final. Someone like Ahmad doesn't need to play 90 minutes this weekend. Let's give him 20. Then next week, let's give him 30. Then 40. Then 60. Then for the final, he can play 90. That's the way that we should be managing it. It's the same for De Ligt, Mason Mount, Kobbie Mainoo, all of them. We need to do it with all of these players to make sure that by the final, we have a really good, fit squad that is ready to be in peak condition. And hopefully, with that in mind, we can have a strong end to the season. Right now, all of a sudden, our squad does look much stronger. I know we've still got a lot of academy players on the bench, but it's not as bad as it was just 6 weeks ago. At one point, it was really, really bad. We had pretty much no experience on the bench. Suddenly, we've got more experienced players, and you can see in these games, around the 65th minute, it's so beneficial having that experience and that just pure quality to bring on from the bench. It really is a game changer. So that is that 5 lessons learned from this game. You guys will probably know most of this stuff already, but I think it's really interesting when certain matches highlight it more than ever. You know, in some games we'll see that the physical issues are really clear for everyone to see, and I think we should point that out when we see it. Another week we'll see the benefit of a left footer in the team, and we will discuss that as well. This might become a bit of a series that we do, 5 things that we learn from every Manchester United game, or certainly the most interesting games. If that is something that you would like to see, let me know in the comments down below. It won't be, you know, as a substitute for other videos. It will be on top of those other videos, so it's just more content for you guys to watch. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comments down below, and also leave a like on the video, and, you know, go and subscribe as well, because we just won 3-0 away in the Europa League. So let's be positive. Let's like, subscribe, notifications on, all of that good stuff. But apart from that, I think we're finished for today. But yeah, apart from that, I'm going to stop there. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.